Okay, we're going to talk about the reading block. When we just talk about a reading block, we're talking about a 90-minute period of uninterrupted instructional time devoted to reading in classrooms. This is according to Reading First policy, so that schools are considered reading first schools always set aside 90 minutes with no interruptions for reading instruction. Some schools have a longer period of time, and other schools have that 90-minute reading block plus an intervention time for students who are still struggling after, even with that 90-minute reading block of differentiated small group instruction. So you should have in front of you a PowerPoint that I provided for you. And if you'll follow along, I'll try to walk you through this without actually reading the slides to you, because I know you're capable of doing that on your own. The reason it's important to talk about time management in the reading block is that this is one of the greatest challenges that teachers find when you're trying to do all the components of a reading first model, and fitting all of that in and really meeting the needs of your students in small groups. So we talk a lot about methods, and methods are absolutely critical, but it's also equally important to understand how time is used as a resource to fit all of that instructional time in. So if you look at slide number 3, you'll see what we know about effective instructional practices. We know that children learn from each other as much as they learn from teachers, and so we call on what we know about social constructivism, Vygotsky's theory about how children learn, and we provide children with a variety of formats to work in. So we have whole group, we have small group, we have pairs or dyads where children do things like partner read, and then we also have to provide plenty of time for independent practice. We maximize student learning. Research has told us for many years that teachers who use every minute of their classroom time as for teaching, whether it's modeling, reading aloud, or just classroom behavior and management, interaction skills with other students, but making every minute count so that there's no real downtime in a classroom. And then teaching struggling readers. Reading First guidelines say that we will meet as teachers with each small group 3 to 5 times a week. Now with struggling readers, we're going to meet with them every day, so that's 5 times a week for struggling readers, because struggling readers need more intense work on skills instruction. And then of course we know that effective teachers also use assessment on an ongoing basis, whether it's observing children as they work, listening to them read, doing DIBELS, progress monitoring assessments to see if they're really capturing and mastering the skills that we're teaching, and of course the benchmark tests. Now on slide number 4, you'll see a model that I've developed that helps to illustrate how teachers use that 90-minute reading block. On the left-hand side, you'll see the 3 different components of a reading block. There's whole group instruction, small group instruction, and practice or independent practice. Where it says independent practice for young children, that means literacy centers that we have the children do. And then you'll see at the top row, you have the teacher's goals, the teacher's methods, and the student's role during each of these 3 components. So for whole group instruction, the teacher's goal is to motivate. This is where we set the stage for our lesson. In this component, and this is actually the shortest period of time that we spend with the students, we don't teach whole group for very long because we have to spend most of our time in small group reading instruction. And the teacher's method, generally we're modeling. When we introduce a new skill, we model how to use that skill. When it comes to reading aloud, we model metacognitive thinking. You know, what do I do when I get to a word that I don't know? And you model for students how to decode the word. You model for them how to figure out what the word means, and etc. And then the student's role, I have the word mimic. During this whole group time, the teacher models a particular strategy, a new skill that you're teaching, and then the teacher actually invites students to come and model for the rest of the class. So mimicking the teacher is the best way for them to demonstrate for the other students in the class how to do that skill. Small group instruction is where the teacher modifies the reading instruction. This is the heart of differentiation, teaching each group differently based on the skills that they need to master. The teacher's methods, magnifying the skills that each group needs to work on, and whatever that is, whether they're struggling readers or whether they are more capable readers. The student's role during small group instruction is to master the skill. Mastery of skills always occurs in small group instruction. Whole group instruction is reserved for introduction of skills, and but small group is where they get that face time with the teacher, so that they can actually sit with the teacher in a small group and practice until they've mastered the skill. During the literacy centers or the independent practice, because we know that 3rd and 4th grade students or middle school students don't necessarily do literacy centers, but they do independent practice, where they may work in dyads or pairs or small groups, and do cooperative learning projects. Nonetheless, the teacher's goal during this independent practice or literacy center time is to simply monitor their activity. This doesn't come automatically, and so one of the things that I always tell teachers is, if you're going to do the 90-minute reading first reading block model, don't jump into it right away. It takes a long time to develop those skills within children so that they can sit in a literacy center and do the activity that you've provided for them, and do it independently, so that they're not having to stop and ask you to explain again how to do that activity. And we'll talk about that more later, how we can determine what activities we place in a literacy center. The teacher's method. When a teacher develops literacy centers or independent activities, they're designed to maintain skills already learned, so that the skills are mastered in small group instruction. The role of those independent activities is to reinforce skills already learned. And the student's role to manipulate. The good literacy centers are things that immerse children in activities, whether it's writing or word sorts or reading independently or reading with a partner. They should be actively engaged at all times. Now, slide 5 is a graphic of what goes on in whole group instruction. If you look at the bottom of the slide, it's about 15 minutes. That's about the maximum amount of time you want to spend in whole group instruction with young children in particular. You're going to lose some if you try to spend more time than that. And so you want to make whole group instruction dynamic. You want to make it interactive. You want to make it interesting, because you really need the children to be focused on you. This is where you do some direct instruction. So the teacher's goal is to motivate. This is where you set the stage, like I said earlier, for the learning that's going to take place. This is absolutely the one place where you're going to read aloud to children, no matter what their age. Whether you're reading a chapter book to older students or reading picture books to kindergarten students, you'll always read aloud. This is the one place where children really get to see comprehension strategies in action, because the teacher's modeling that metacognitive process. This is also where you introduce the new skill, and generally this is based on benchmark skills. So this is where generally a school district will have, for a grade level, particular skills that children are going to master according to the state benchmark guidelines or the Common Core standards that will be coming soon to all the public schools. The delivery of whole group instruction should always be brisk, short, and 15 minutes doesn't give you a lot of time. So we don't use that time to lecture children. We're doing several different things, and there's little time wasted. The teacher's methods, again, the teacher's modeling metacognition during read aloud and the application of the new skill that you're introducing. And the student's role is to mimic. In other words, you'll provide a little activity that you'll demonstrate for the children, and you'll have students come up and then show the rest of the class how to do it. So that, again, the social constructivism, they learn from the teacher, but sometimes some kids learn a little bit better when their friend is at the front of the classroom showing them how to do the particular skill. Okay, small group instruction. The teacher's goal is to modify instruction, so this is where you differentiate. And remember that we use our assessment data to determine our small groups, which child is in which group. We want to provide extra practice as needed on the skills that the children need to master. And we accelerate learning when appropriate. So it's not always about the struggling readers. It's just as important to differentiate instruction for the more capable children who are reading at or above grade level. We need to give them the opportunities to stretch as readers and to grow. The teacher's method. The teacher targets the new skills, and it's always based on the particular needs of that group of students. And this is, again, where the students master their skills. And so for some students, you may spend one day on, let's say, for example, short vowel sounds. For other students, you may spend 3 days, and for other students, it may take them 2 weeks to master that skill. But that's the role of small group instruction, is to ensure that the children are mastering the skills they need to be successful readers. The next few slides discuss what goes on during small group instruction. So we're going to pause here, and then I will give you a chance to read back over the other slides, and then I'll post a second video that will pick up at slide number 7.